forth the men and women from all walks responsible for its superlative civilization, unparalleled to this day.
Well, good morning, everyone. I pray things are well as you rise into this new day called today. Peace is my nature. I am so divine, and I hope you are resonating with that same mantra that you are divine. It's good to see each of you who have joined us. Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday Science of Successful Living. I am Asar, your host and facilitator to what promises to be an enlightening teaching seminar this morning entitled Love's Deceptive Veil, the Samson and Delilah Dilemma. Many of you should have gotten the email and saw the image there. I would like to at some point in time know what response that image gave you, or what does that image mean? What do you think? What direction you think I'm going this morning with this message? For as we've entered into the month of February, where love and Black history are its focal points, they collage, and we begin to recant stories of our history, and we also begin to really assess for love in our lives. This morning, I would like the focus to be on the idea of the deception of love. I could have given it a number of good titles, like it could have given it the salaciousness of Samson, and we could have looked or explored his inability to see through the veil of false love. Or I could have perhaps even entitled it, What's Love Got to Do with It? Using St. Louis's very own icon, Tina Turner's chart-topping song, and his lyrics from, I think it was 1984 when she hit the chart with that song. And this song went on to become one of her most successful singles and is known for its catchy melody and poignant lyrics. It says, "You must understand, oh, the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. That is only the thrill of a boy meeting girl. Opposites attract. It's physical, only logical. You must try to ignore that it means more than that." Wow. I could really drill down into that. And we might take a look at that because we will see that Samson may have been involved with this type of a woman. So in this message, I want to peek into the age-old story of Samson and Delilah as a backdrop, exploring the intricate dynamics of love, trust, and vulnerability. It's an opportunity for us to uncover the layers behind one of the most enigmatic love stories ever told, and draw some parallels into our own lives. So what I would like to come away with is in this short time together is insight on how love can both empower and weaken, and how to navigate the delicate balance of this thing called love. Understand your own relationship and the role of trust and self-awareness when it comes to love. And we want to look at the practical wisdom from the story of Samson and Delilah that you can apply to your own journey as we move forward deeper into this month. Now, when we look at this story, Samson had a dilemma. Even though this particular story we're focusing on is one of the three women, he had two other engagements that really caused me to think that this is one of his life lessons. The first woman was the woman from Timnah. Samson's first recorded love interest is also a Philistine woman from Timnah, whom he wishes to marry. This relationship sets the stage for several of his early conflicts with the Philistines. So he had a bone to pick with them in a sense. The marriage does not come to fruition due to a series of events that lead to her being given to someone else in marriage. Then he had another situation where he engaged a woman of Gaza or Gaza. It's Gaza. There's also a brief mention of this, him visiting this prostitute. But this relationship is not described as one of love or significant attachment. But it also shows how he was driven by his sensory self at the compromise of what his call was. But the most important of the three women that we find mentioned here in the book of Judges is the woman called Delilah. This is the most famous of Samson's relationships. She is often portrayed as the one who betrays him by cutting his hair, leading to his capture to the Philistines. Delilah's story is central to the narrative of Samson's downfall and eventual redemption. Furthermore, in his relationships with women, particularly Delilah, can be interpreted as symbolizing the temptation to stray from one's spiritual path. Delilah is convincing Samson to reveal the secret of his strength, and then betraying him can be seen as a metaphor for the idea that giving in to lower desires or material temptations can lead to the loss of one's spiritual power, or disconnected from our true selves. Now, I like this story because this story is really interesting. Some years ago, I heard a message by the Honorable Jeremiah Wright. He was the pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, and he preached a message once, was entitled "What Makes You So Strong, Black Man?" And in this message, he backdrops the story of Samson and Delilah, and he used that the theme of what makes you so strong coming from the perspective of Delilah attempt to know wherein does his power lie. Now you got to be pay attention to when you engage in people. If they keep having a particular conversation with you, one, it means that you haven't disclosed what they really want to know, and then it may show that there's an ulterior motive for that relationship. That was this system took in order to try to identify the source of his weakness. Now, my question is, why does she want to know his weakness? And you have to ask yourself, when somebody is exploring you with questions to identify what is perceived as a weakness or where your strength comes from, you got to pay attention to that conversation. In the first attempt, Delilah asked Samson directly about the source of his great strength and how he could be subdued. Why do you want to know how to subdue me? But that falls in line when you look at the narrative that you find in the book of Genesis, chapter 3, the war of the sexes, where after the descent, the fall in the garden, then they had an issue with one another, and one of the things that was supposedly given as a curse that she shall have, that she shall want to subdue her husband, and that she will have pain in childbirthing. This is the story of Genesis that is given to us in the Judaic approach to the Old Testament. And so we see here this same story is ensuing where she wants to subdue him. Samson misled her by saying that if he were bound with 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, he would become weak, and the Philistines would ultimately bring her such bowstrings. But when they attempted to subdue him with it, when she tied him up, why you want to tie me up? Okay, so she tied him up, and She said to him, "Look, the Philistines are coming." And Samson broke free easily. And so she was like, "Oh, so that doesn't work." And she had a second attempt. After the first attempt fails, she questions him again. And this time, Samson tells her that he would be weakened if bound tightly with new ropes that had never been used. Delilah tries this method, but again, Samson breaks free. And when the Philistines attempt to capture him, it was up to no avail. So now she's looking at, why isn't this man telling me what I need to know? But what's more importantly is he should have been looking at, why is this woman trying to subdue me? Now, at this point, it should become clear because the Philistines showed up after he had been tied up. Then there was a third attempt. Still not knowing his secret, Delilah presses him further. Samson then claims that if his hair were woven into a loom's fabric and tightened with a pin, he would lose his strength. Delilah does this while Samson sleeps, but upon waking, he pulls away the loom and the pin, remaining strong again. Now, in the final attempt, this time she has the men in the room while he falls asleep. She's frustrated, persistent, and she accuses him of mocking her and not telling her the truth. After much persuasion, Samson finally reveals his true source of strength, his hair, which had never been cut due to the Nazirite vow that he had. So while he sleeps, so why does this man keep falling asleep in the presence of this person who is attempting to do him in? Now, a greater question is, why do we get lulled into states of unawareness or states of sleep when we know individuals don't necessarily have our best interest in mind? And a lot of times it's inside of this conversation of what we call love. In this last encounter, Samson falls asleep and the men that was in the room. So you got to be careful who you're sleeping with the enemy. That could have been another title that I gave this. But she isn't the real issue here. The real issue is Samson. So Samson's strength leaves him and he's captured. Now there's a lot to be taken away inside of what I just shared. But the story of Samson and Delilah from the book of Judges can indeed be interpreted metaphorically also. And that's what I want to kind of look at this morning. And we will also include the perspective of self-love and seeking external validation. Here's how this interpretation may look if we were to take some time and really drill down into the metaphorical message that is here. First of all, Samson's strength as his self-identity, integrity. In metaphorical interpretation, Samson's extraordinary strength can represent your or an individual's personal integrity, your self-worth, your inner power. For he had a Nazirite vow, especially the aspect of not cutting his hair. So he had clear directives of how he should live. And sometimes when we know what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, how we should be carrying it out, and we encounter others that call you off of that which you know, then you have to ask yourself, is this or does this serve my highest and greatest good? We also can see that Delilah was a external validation. Delilah can be seen as representing the external sources from which many people often seek validation through love. This can include relationships, societal pressures, societal approval, material success. In the pursuit of these external forms of validation, one might be tempted to compromise their course values and integrities, much like what Samson eventually divulges in, and the secret of his strength given to Delilah. Now, when we talk about external validation, that is that we're seeking something outside of ourselves that should be sought inside of ourselves. And Samson was clearly motivated by his sight, for we see even after the Philistines ultimately captured him, one of the first things they had done was they put his eyes out. And so, what we understand through life situations, ultimately, the thing that is causing us to be distracted will ultimately be the thing that destroys us. And so we see that his eyes, he was living his life through the eye gate. You know, he was choosing these women based on their external beauty. He was choosing these women in a fashion that does not represent wisdom. We see there was a loss of strength as his compromised self-identity, who he was called to show up as. Um, when Samson loses his hair and the consequences was his strength left, it symbolizes what happens when an individual loses their sense of self, which many people have a tendency to do when they're in a relationship. They lose their sense of self and integrity by overly depending on the external validation of love or that person affirming them. The loss of his hair, which represents his source of strength, what it also represents is covering. So he was uncovered and his mind was impacted. So we want to always make sure that we are covered. We understand that the loss of his hair represents the erosion of his self-esteem and personal values. When one happiness and sense of worth are overly tied to how others perceive us or treat us, it could cause us to be compromised. And so many people, when we talk about the month of February, the light is on. Are you in a relationship? And in a day and age in which we live, is not the quality of relationship. Oftentimes, it's the quantity of relationships, and it's in addition to that the relationships don't necessarily have to have any depth to them. It's just the illusion through the romantic um, uh, environment that love cultivates, or romantic love cultivates. That is going out, buying things, the happiness of relationship, not really understanding that the relationship has a true relationship has more to do with engaging someone that aligns with you, in addition to that, someone that encourages, promotes a level of personal growth. Now, when you're in a real relationship with a person, it should not call you away from what's important to you. A relationship is not about one person influencing another beyond where they want to be influenced. So that's something we have to be mindful of, the loss of our strength, and we compromise our identity for this thing called love. Some of the consequences of losing your self-love, that's the first thing. You can't fully love someone unless you love yourself. And if you're invested in loving others first, then what you find happens is you compromise and you can be manipulated. The capture and downfall of Samson can metaphorically represent the negative consequences that might follow when someone loses touch with their self-love and self-respect. This can include the loss of personal happiness, sense of purpose, and the ability to fulfill your destiny. So many people our age don't have happiness, and a lot of it they're associated with to their mate or the person they're engaging in a relationship with. But your happiness should not be contingent upon anything that's external, but it should come from an internal piece. But now, when you're in a relationship, if the relationship should enhance your life, not take away from your life. That's the only thing you should be assessing for. Does this relationship enhance my life? And when we look at Samson, that relationship did not enhance his life. You need to look at what was it about the Philistine women that drew his attention. Why wasn't he being drawn to the woman who would be complimentary, or why wasn't he just being still and allowing that woman to be brought into his life? But he was being pulled by the influence of what he could see, and as a result, it cost him dearly. Another situation with metaphor inside of this conversation is redemption and reaffirmation of self. Okay, Interestingly, Samson's hair begins to grow back while he is in captivity, which can be seen as a metaphor for the idea that it's never too late to start regaining one's sense of self and integrity. His final act, which leads to his death, but also to the defeat of the enemy, was he interpreted can be interpreted as a reaffirmation of our own strength and identity. Albeit it can cost you something. Matter of fact, if you're pursuing if you really walk in authenticity, it's going to be to the demise of things you other part of you, because now the things you desire to do that don't align with it, you don't do, and it kind of kills that aspect of you. When I look at this story of Samson and Delilah, I'm reminded that this is a dilemma that many men in particular in the African community, many not only men but women in the African community are challenged with. They're choosing individuals who don't represent their highest and greatest good, and they oftentimes choosing individuals who have no true sense of care and have in the backdrop of their lives oppressive or thoughts of um, Africans in America. And so what we have when we talk about this love inside of this month of February, everybody begins to focus on love. We talk about Black history, and most of the times we are talking about Black history from the perspective of post-slavery or after the interruptions that we've experienced over the last 1600 years. But we got to understand that there is a history that we as a people have that starts in antiquity. When we look at that, if you don't know that, it impacts how you feel about yourself. If you're defining yourself just based on what has happened, the interruption, the enslavement, and all that came as a result of that trauma, then you are limited. You will begin to choose relationships that don't necessarily actualize your highest and greatest good. So you have to be very careful. So we look at this story as the external things that we choose. We have to ask what's behind it. Why am I going after this thing or this person? Why is this situation? Why am I experiencing these types of situations when I'm engaging this person or these types of people? They may not have your best interest in mind. So as we move deeper into this month, one of the things I want to offer to you is during the month of February, which is historically known as Black History Month, I want to present a series, and that series has to do with African history starts in antiquity. That we need to move away from these narratives that we're getting that start, everything that we hear inside of Black history has to do with post-slavery, the inventions or the things we've done contemporarily wise. But that is at the risk of not aligning ourselves with our historical past. And we have a strong, great historical past, regardless of the interruption. And once you understand that the interruption has impacted us in ways that we have yet to fully look at in its entirety, once you begin to realize that, it'll make some of the things that's going on in your life will begin to make sense. So I really want you to know that when we talk about this concept of love, and we focus on love, and February being the month of love, but also February being the month of Black history, they coincide. So you can't talk about true love without having understanding of who you are. So when we talk about Black history, some may think that this is two separate topics, but they're really one topic, because the love of self is the thing that we have to return to. We have to return to the idea that we are Africans in our true makeup, that we are not just African Americans, or we're not blacks, or, you know, to be able to love ourselves starts by how we define ourselves. And if you can't love the place from which you came, it says that there's a disconnect. And do you truly love yourself? A lot of times what happens in love, we acculturate. So in the sense of individuals in love, they become what the person that they desires them to be. Or that is, we believe that in order to engage this person, I need to become like this person. I need to think like. But anytime you are entering into true love, it doesn't require of you to compromise how you think. It requires that you maintain your self of sense of independence, and you move into an interdependence, but never the two being overtaken by one or the other. So as we move into this month of February deeper, we are dealing with love. We're dealing with history. We got to understand that the two have met, and they have to be dealt with. So this morning, this message has to do with um, what are you loving? What is drawing you? What is drawing you through the concept of love? And for many people, when we talk about love, it's really a conversation about the physicalness, the feel goodness of it, the romantic love. You know how the Roman culture influenced what love is. But love is not what you can buy for a person. Love is not everything's being copacetic all the time. Love is a deeper essence, and we need to explore what is it to love someone. First, you understand you come to love someone truly by knowing how to love yourself, to know how you want to be treated. Then you treat others the way you want to be treated. And if the way you're treating yourself is not respected by the people individual you may be engaging, then you know that that person is not for you. But too many people don't even love themselves. They spend more time seeking to love someone else, taking on things that does not um, represent their highest and greatest good, changing their total look. It's one thing to be sensitive to how you come across, but if you are really, that's your look, and you may not be able to do nothing about it, or maybe it's something you can do about, but you enjoy how you show up. And if the person that you are engaging is pushing you to look different, act different, be different, then that person is really not accepting you. They're trying to define you. So we have to be careful. Samson, he was fixated on perhaps a physical beauty. He was fixated on the draw of the opposite, and your opposite should not be your draw. You need to be drawing to those who align with who you are. And so Samson had a lesson to learn, and many of us still have the same lesson to learn, that we first must be committed to self. We must be committed to the call that is upon our unique, our lives, how we are supposed to express through life, well, how we are designed to be, and be comfortable with that. That's really important. And begin to engage people from a sense of who you are, and then addressing life situations from that perspective, not acculturating. And when I say acculturating, I don't mean that you don't take on some things that represent your highest and greatest good, but for your entire defined self to be or look like or to express as something that's totally different than you, that represents a challenge. I mean, that represents that something is going on. You have what Black psychologists will call an alien self disorder. You don't love yourself, or can't even see yourself, don't even know yourself. If you saw who you are, when you see images of when you go back history wise and you can identify with it, you say that's alien to you, or I have nothing to do, I'm not an African. That's a first sign that there's a level of alien self. We have now a lot of people are defining themselves as Native Americans, but when we go to the first people that populated the earth, we must understand that it was people of African descent. All of mankind, the cradle of mankind, is found in Africa, and there are some phenotype, very distinct characteristics that came with that first people group. And as the course of time evolved, things changed, meaning land masses where we lived at, environments impacted us, but we don't define ourselves solely on our gender, or neither on our race. Race is an interesting concept. We define ourselves solely as divine spiritual beings, but we also embrace the containers that we show up in or show up in. You got to be careful that you don't allow others to define you. I had an interesting conversation this week with someone, and I was going through some pictures, and I was showing them pictures of me when younger, and one of the pictures had my late wife in it, and this person, who was not of African descent, says, if what nationality is she? I said she's Black, and then she said again, what you know what nationality? Later on in the conversation, she still said it's like she couldn't understand, and I was like, what are you asking me? Then she says because of her hair, whatever. And so people define us as if you are look anything other than a stereotypical African, you're not African. But we have to understand that we are not defined on what we look like, but the essence. So for me to just tell her that she was African American, Black, it wasn't enough. She had to find something to say that, oh, she must be mixed, or this, that, or the other. And that's a conversation we have to begin to come to grips with in our own community. That is it good enough just to be African, I'm of African descent? Or why do we have to say that I'm this, that, or the other? Maybe that tells us that we have some dissatisfaction with our core essence. And so we have to learn to embrace that. So let's wrap up with prayer this morning. I want to give a closing prayer, and then if there's questions or dialogue, let's stick around for a few minutes and do that. So right where you are, just take a deep breath and close your eyes. Deep breath in and exhale. So in this space that we in this morning, this sacred moment of alignment with divine essence, we recognize and honor the profound capacity within each of us to exercise the true essence of love. We understand that true love is not a compromise of self or mere sensory experience, but a divine force that flows through our being. We acknowledge the boundless wellspring of love that resides within each of us, and we choose to embrace and express it authentically. We understand that true love starts with self-love, and we commit to loving and accepting ourselves unconditionally. We release all judgments, doubts, and criticisms, replacing them with self-compassion and self-acceptance and self-care. We extend this genuine love to all those we encounter on our journey. We see divine essence within each person, regardless of race, creed, or color. We choose to love them with empathy and compassion and kindness. We recognize that true love transcends judgments, boundaries, and limitations, and that true love does not cause us to compromise our well-being or our lives. We affirm that true love is a conscious choice and an unwavering commitment to well-being of living beings, all living beings. It's not swayed by external circumstances or sensory distractions. So we choose to exercise love as a powerful force for healing, transformation, and unity today. So we stand firm in our ability to exercise the true essence of love without compromising our own integrity or being drawn into a superficial or sensory focused expression of love. We're grounded this morning in the wisdom of love, a love that knows no limitations. We trust in the profound power of love to heal wounds, unite hearts, and bring about positive change in this world. So we affirm that love, in its truest essence, is the most powerful, potent force in the universe. We are here to exercise this love, to express this love authentically, guided by wisdom of our hearts. So we embrace and exercise true love and its essence. We are a beacon of light and healing in this world. We are living expressions of love's divine presence, unwavering and unyielding. And so it is. Amen. Amen. I pray that something was said there that was uplifting and encouraging, and that you will take some time and go back to the book of Judges, chapter 15 and 16, and explore that story of Samson and Delilah. And then you will sit back and you will ask yourself, how am I expressing love? Am I expressing the true, what the Greeks would call agape love, unconditional love? But unconditional love does not mean that you have to subject yourself to abuse or subject yourself to being called to conformity. But unconditional love is that you do unto others the way what you would like to have done to you, not based on what they've done for you lately. But it also means that you're wise enough to know that if this person or this thing does not represent your highest and greatest good, you have to exit it from your life, or you have to exit from it. Because the longer you stay there, the more influential that thing can become in your life. So, all right, I'm gonna look over here, see if there's any questions or any insights, any hands up before we move on into the remainder of this day. We've got about 15 minutes before we're at the top of the hour. I don't see any hands, any responses. You guys was quiet out on the chat. Maybe it gave you something to think about. Good. So that's all I have this morning. If this ministry has been a blessing to you, those who want to know how to be a blessing to it, simply go to the website, oasisspiritualcenter.com, and you can go over to the giving tab, and you can find what platform best suits your ability to transmute what it is you desire to get into the ministry. Or if you want to just use PayPal, not PayPal, if you want to use Cash App or Zelle, the number is 708-368-1076. 708-368-1076. And I thank all of you who continue to support the ministry at whatever level and frequency that you do. Well, that's all I have this morning. You all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the 6 o'clock hour on tomorrow morning, where we will meet for morning meditation, 6 a.m. to 6:15. If you want to know more about the upcoming Black History, starting this Tuesday, African History Begins in Antiquity series. I encourage you to just open up the email that I sent you around 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. You want to open this email up, and you will find out everything you need to know about this coming Tuesdays and the next 4 Tuesday series dealing with African history begins in antiquity. We're going to cover some things that oftentimes are overlooked. We're going to go beyond the interruptions and look back into antiquity and come forward with it. I'm going to address mathematics, science, astrology. We're going to look at religion from and the vantage point of antiquity, not contemporary time. So we're going to go back beyond 4000 BC, before the Common Era, and begin to look at how we were showing up, to introduce some of you to an aspect of African history that has been taken out, or oftentimes not even have been put into the curriculums of our school. So you guys have a wonderful day. Peace until we meet again. I'm Asar.